Picture a snake. Coiled, patterned, still. Now notice what just happened in your body. Maybe nothing. Maybe your shoulders tightened. Maybe your stomach dropped a little. Here's the question this video is going to answer. Where did that reaction come from? Because the honest answer, for most of us, is this: it didn't come from you. It came from someone else. Fear doesn't need a bite. There's a persistent myth that fear is earned. That you're only afraid of something because it once hurt you. You got bitten, so now you flinch. You failed, so now you hesitate. Cause and effect, clean and simple. But neuroscience tells a messier, more interesting story. Researchers Andreas Olsson and Elizabeth Phelps, publishing in Nature Neuroscience showed something that changes how we should think about every fear we carry. Fear can be learned socially, just by watching someone else react, without any direct danger ever touching you. Your nervous system doesn't require a bite. It only requires a witness. In their experiments, people who simply watched another person show fear toward a stimulus developed their own fear response to that same stimulus. No personal pain involved. The brain, it turns out, doesn't cleanly separate "this happened to me" from "I saw this happen to someone else." Both get filed under the same folder, *danger star. Think about what that means. You don't need to have been bitten by a snake to be afraid of snakes. You just needed to see someone else's body go rigid, hear someone else's voice spike in panic, watch someone else recoil, and your nervous system quietly took notes. Words are enough. It gets more precise than that. You don't even need to *C fear to catch it. You can be told into it. Psychologist Andy Field's research on what's called the verbal threat information pathway found that children can acquire genuine fear responses purely from how adults talk about something. No direct experience, no witness reaction, just language. A warning. A tone. A story repeated one too many times. This explains something that used to seem strange: why some of your fears don't trace back to any memory at all. You search your past for the moment the fear began, and you come up empty, because it never began in an event. It began in a sentence. In a warning tone your mother used. In a phrase repeated at the dinner table. In the way a teacher's voice dropped when a subject came up. The child doesn't learn to fear the snake because it was bitten. The child learns to fear the way someone talked about the snake. Sometimes fear doesn't arrive through contact with danger. It arrives through how someone else decided to narrate the world for you. You weren't born afraid, but you were born ready. Now, an important nuance, because this isn't a story about blank slates. Vanessa LoBue's research on fear in infancy makes clear that we're not necessarily born with specific fears already installed. What we're born with is a nervous system exquisitely prepared to learn certain fears fast. Snakes, spiders, heights, strangers. These are what researchers call prepared fears, not automatic, but primed. It takes very little to install them. If an infant sees the image of a snake at the exact moment it hears a frightened voice, sees a panicked face, or feels tension in the adult holding it, the brain can begin welding that image to danger almost instantly. One pairing. That's sometimes all it takes. So the system isn't fear-proof, and it isn't fear-free. It's fear-ready. Which means the adults around a child aren't just influencing a personality. They're actively writing threat assessment software into a brain that's built to absorb it uncritically. The child has no filter yet. Here's the part that reframes everything. A child doesn't think, my mother is reacting this way because of her own anxious history, but this situation is probably fine. A child thinks, implicitly, my mother is reacting this way because this is the correct way to react. There's no filter yet. No internal narrator saying that's her fear. Not necessarily mind the child simply absorbs the reaction as data about how the world works. And this is exactly where the transfer happens, where someone else's fear quietly becomes your own operating system, simply because you didn't yet have a self separate enough to question it. By the time you're old enough to have that filter, the fear is already installed. It doesn't feel borrowed. It feels like you star. The fears that aren't even yours. So let's say this plainly, a fear can live in you without ever having started with you. It might be your mother's fear of instability, your father's fear of failure, Your family's fear of public shame. Your community's fear of being different. A teacher's fear of mistakes. Your generation's fear of ridicule. Your culture's fear of people who dare to live differently. None of these started as your fear. All of them can end up living in your body as if they did. And this is how adult fear gets mistaken for truth about the world. A fear of conflict. A fear of asking for what you need. A fear of visibility. A fear of making a mistake. A fear of authority. A fear of freedom itself. A fear of what people will say. These don't always come from something that happened to you. Often, they come from being handed someone else's unresolved fear and mistaking it for wisdom. The other half of the story. Now here's the part that should give you real hope, because if fear travels this easily between people, so does courage. Just as your nervous system can catch someone else's fear without direct danger, it can also catch someone else's calm. Watching another person move steadily through something that once seemed threatening, watching a body stay relaxed where yours expects tension, teaches your own nervous system that another way of being is possible. Courage is contagious in exactly the same mechanism fear is. And if the fear was installed by people, it can be corrected by people too. Through safer relationships. Through healthier models. Through being around people who don't flinch when you try to experiment, take up space, or grow your own autonomy. You didn't get to choose most of the fears you inherited. But you do get to choose, now, whose nervous system you stand close to. So, are you afraid of snakes? Or is a version of someone else's fear quietly wearing your name? That's not a rhetorical question. It's worth actually sitting with. Because the fear that feels most like **, the one you've never questioned because it's just always been there, is often the one that started somewhere else entirely. You can't rewrite where a fear began. But you can decide, from here, whether it still gets to run the show. If this made you rethink even one fear you've been carrying, you know what to do. Like it, share it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. If this story stayed with you, consider subscribing. Here at Luminary Tales, every story is meant to leave you with a question worth carrying. Until next time.